Welcome back to the Hillbilly RV channel. In that last video, I mentioned that I was working on a furnace out of a FEMA unit. Well, I realized, maybe not everybody knows what a FEMA unit is, understands how they work. To be honest with you, I learned a lot. I've done a little bit of research on this beforehand on the internet. I can't vouch for the total accuracy of these facts. I just found them on the internet. If it's on the internet, it's true, right? No, not always, but before we get started, though, I would like to give a big shout out to Mad Jack and Doug and Dee Ritchie. Thanks for the generous donation on PayPal. I really appreciate it. Any money that comes in just goes straight back into the channel, so really do appreciate that. So FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. FEMA helps out when there are natural disasters and things like that. One of the things that they do is they offer temporary housing for people who have been displaced. Their homes are destroyed or messed up, and they need a place to stay temporarily until they get back on their feet, get their house fixed, or get a new house, or whatever the case may be. Now, I know for a fact that FEMA buys campers, and as far as I know, they also buy like mobile homes, single-wide mobile homes. Maybe they do other things, I'm not real sure, but what we're going to be talking about today is the campers, because that's the part that I know about. This FEMA unit, and we're just going to call them FEMA units. That's what everybody in the industry calls them. The ones that we still see around here, I believe, they're all from the Katrina hurricane which made landfall late August of 2005. So these things are getting some age on them. So, but there's still quite a few of them around. They're sitting on the river lots, things like that. Now some of most of them are probably gone, but there are still some that are being used today. Just like the one I worked on the furnace on, in that last video. So, as I said, the Katrina catastrophe was a hurricane that hit the Gulf Coast and mostly Louisiana late August 2005. Now, I don't know exactly how it works. I don't know if FEMA picks up the big red phone, calls all the RV manufacturers in Elkhart, Indiana, and goes, "Hey, stop what you're doing, make FEMA units. We need a bunch of them." Okay. For Katrina, what I found out with my research is they actually ordered 145,000 units. Now, I think what happens, because I've seen this with my own eyes, I think when they pick up the big red phone and call for a bunch of FEMA units, now if there are campers on the line, the production line, that are not pre-sold, they'll automatically make those FEMA units. And some of those early units, in that the first units in that run, some of them are true campers. Some of them, I've even seen some, fiberglass sided, laminated units, with all windows, decals, RV refrigerator, RV toilet, holding tanks, all that. And then once those are all offline, then they start making what we call a FEMA unit. They're easy to spot. You can spot them from a mile away once you know what they are. They are always a stick and tin camper, which means they are wood frame and aluminum siding, and they will have very few windows in them, 2, 3, 4 windows tops, and they'll be small windows, and no decals. And the only decal on it will be a Cavalier sticker on the front. And I'm pretty sure all the coach manufacturers, call them a Cavalier. They also, they're a little bit different than because as far as I'm concerned, they're not a true camper. Because the FEMA unit, like I say, very few windows, no graphics. It will have a household. It'll have a very inexpensive household refrigerator in it. It will have a residential commode, usually a small residential commode with no holding tanks at all. No black tank, no gray tank, no freshwater tank, no water pump. It does have a water heater. It does have an RV water heater. But that's it. I mean, that's, so, to me, an RV is going to have, you start talking modern RVs, everybody's going residential refrigerators. Most of the manufacturers are offering several models that no longer have RV refrigerators. But still, I think if you don't have any holding tanks, it's not really an RV, because you can't use it, to travel in. Let's say, you can't dry camp in it. You can't go to a Walmart parking lot and spend the night, use your bathroom, and take a shower or anything, because you've got no way to hold fresh water, gray water, or black water. So they're not a true camper. And actually, back in the day, I had a lot of calls, and I know everybody did in the RV industry, at least over here on the East Coast. I don't know how. I guess they sold those FEMA units all over the country, but I don't know. But people would buy those things and want to turn them into a camper, and they'd want to put holding tanks on it. And I was like, well, nobody really wanted to do it, because it would be a huge hassle. Because just take the black tank for instance. There's no way to mount it. They made no provisions to mount it underneath the camper. You'd have to take out the residential commode, put in an RV commode. You would have to take a wall out, because you're going to have to run a vent out of the tank, up through a wall, and out the ceiling. Big hassle. So, I don't know what everybody else did, but when people would call, want to know if I'd put black tank in a FEMA unit, I priced it pretty high, because, to be honest with you, I just didn't want to do it, because it's just a huge hassle. Since Hurricane Katrina was the last really huge event that I know of that FEMA actually bought FEMA units for, let's talk about Hurricane Katrina. Like I said a little bit ago, it made landfall late August 2005, and immediately, Elkhart, Indiana started producing FEMA units. FEMA actually ordered, this is something that I found out just doing this research, 145,000 units for the Katrina catastrophe alone. They paid $65,000 a piece for these units. That's a pretty good profit margin, I would think. That was quite a bit higher than they would have sold, a real camper retail then. A stick and tin camper, with all the RV stuff in it. That's in 05, they weren't going for anywhere near $65,000. So yeah, I thought that was a little bit crazy. They spent, 145,000 units at $65,000 a piece is just under $9.5 billion that Uncle Sam, FEMA, spent on these FEMA units. All right, they bought these. They had them shipped down to the Gulf Coast. They had these huge parking lots. I mean, they would park tens of thousands of these things in a parking lot. They were anticipating, doling them out, let people live in them. So they bought them, they transported them, they stored them, and then they started, dispersing them to the people who needed them. And almost immediately, people started complaining about being sick. They move in this FEMA unit. Some family member would get sick, or whatever, and then somebody went in and done a study, and he's like, "Oh, there's super high levels of formaldehyde in these things." Well, folks, it's not like FEMA ordered. He said, "Hey, Big Red Phone, hey, we throw some extra formaldehyde in those FEMA units, would you?" No. All the coach manufacturers in Elkhart use the same building materials they was using in the retail campers. Formaldehyde is in most of your building materials, or were then. It may have changed now, but at that time, a lot of formaldehyde. your lumber, your paneling, your carpet, probably your linoleum. I mean, everything, the cabinets, everything in these things was made with formaldehyde. And it was no different than if you bought a brand new house or stayed in a brand new motel or anything. They were full of formaldehyde. The formaldehyde over time will dissipate, but new construction back then, like I say, things may have changed since then, but back then, new construction had high levels of formaldehyde. But anyhow, people started getting sick. So when people started getting sick, they just kind of quit giving these things out for people to live in. So in 3 years, by 2008, FEMA had over 11,000 health complaints about people living in the FEMA units. So, like I say, they had quit giving them out anyway. So in 2008, they quietly sold 1,000 of these for scrap. Okay, all those ones that were sitting on the lots that hadn't been passed out to people who needed them. They sold 1,000 of them for scrap, which meant they were supposed to be scrapped. They were supposed to be dismantled, sold for scrap, okay? But a few months later, these things are sitting in campgrounds everywhere. So they's like, well, that didn't really work as we planned. So then in 2009, they sold in 11 auctions 101,802 FEMA units. They were sold at auction, an absolute auction, no reserves. Some of these things went for as little as $100 a piece at auction. So if they sold almost 102,000 of those things, then that means they only let people, they only dispersed 40 some thousand of these for people to live in. Out of the 145,000 that they ordered, very few people, got to stay in them, got to use them. Because I know, at least over here on the East Coast, when they dispersed over 100,000 of those things all at once, it just pretty much killed the RV market. Because anybody that was looking to buy, a used RV, well, they bought FEMA units. So, and I heard that some of them went as high as $5,000, because and some of them may have gone a lot cheaper because they sell on those big lots down there from 05 to 09, and they were just, people went in and just destroyed them, stole, they stole anything in them that was worth anything. Because I was working with a dealer back then, and he bought a few of them, and I think every one of them, the converter was missing out of them. Some of them, the water heaters were missing. So, anything that people could go in there and steal and sell for a profit, that's what they did. Because these things, tens of thousands of them sitting on a lot with nobody around, and so that's what happened to them. Some of them were whole; they had not been molested. Others, they were pretty rough. I do know for a fact too that they sat down there in that heat in the Gulf Coast, closed up for all them years, never even opened. And I know a lot of the things that are glued inside of a camper come unglued. The paper peeling off the paneling. Believe it or not, they don't sew the curtains; they glue the curtains and stuff like that. Curtains fell off, and just everything that had glue in it was kind of rough after sitting down there in that heat for all those years and not being used or never even having the doors open. All right, I actually have a little more, experience with FEMA units before Katrina. I believe it's before Katrina. We had some widespread flooding here in West Virginia, and there was quite a few people living in FEMA units. And I know, I guess FEMA sent a guy in. He was a contractor with FEMA, and they paid him X number of dollars for a service call. And I'm going by memory here, because I talked to the guy a few times. It seemed to me like it was like several $100s, $600 or $700. Okay, when he first come to this area, he called me. It's like, hey, I want to order some RV parts from you. I said, cool, yeah, we can do that. That's what you need. And if I'm not mistaken, this is going from memory, he told me he wanted like 50 thermostats. Now this is back in the day. The FEMA units all had Dometic air conditioners, suburban furnaces, so they were running off back in those days they were running off an analog thermostat. So he wanted all these thermostats. I'm like, what do you want? Why do you want 50 thermostats? Maybe it's 30, I don't know, but it was a bunch. And he's like, well, that's usually what's wrong with them, if the furnace or air conditioner's not working. It's like, well, that's totally not true, but whatever. If you want to buy 50 thermostats, I'll sell them to you. So I ordered them, he bought them, and then I started getting calls wanting me to work on FEMA units. I was not a contractor for FEMA, so I would charge customers, and then they would be reimbursed from FEMA. But these customers would tell me that, I had a water leak, and the guy come out and changed the thermostat. He didn't even work on the water leak, so I need my water leak fixed. I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but usually, I mean, seriously, this guy would go if they had an air conditioner, or, if they had any HVAC problem at all, the air conditioner or the furnace, he'd go change the thermostat. And if it didn't fix it, he's like, oh, well, I can't fix it. You're going to have to call somebody else. So they would call me. And I was like, good gracious. And they're paying this guy all this money. And he didn't know how to fix nothing. He just changed the thermostat. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing happens when you turn the federal government loose. I mean, people need help when there's a big natural disaster. I understand that. But my goodness, this is just one example of waste. $9.5 billion worth of campers, and 2/3 of them were never used. I mean, dude, seriously. And then they ended up selling them 4 years later for, pennies on the dollar, parts of pennies. It's just crazy. When FEMA had dispersed those campers in our area for the flooding victims, my cousin actually, her house got damaged, and her and her family lived in one for a while, and I don't know how long, maybe a couple years or whatever, while they were fixing her house up. I do know that at the end, FEMA said, it's you're done with the camper. We can either come pick it up, or you can just buy it for, it was a few $100s, I think, $300, $400, $500 or something. Pretty good deal. So, yeah. So, and I would imagine that probably the ones that they actually let people live in down in Louisiana and Gulf Coast area, probably same way. At some point, FEMA's probably like, hey, you need to either, move out or buy this camper, for a few $100 or whatever. And probably at that point, some of those people were probably like, well, crap, if I'd known I was going to get to buy this thing, for a few $100, I'd have took better care of it, because I was in some of them. I'll tell you what, people just trashed them. You get something for free, you don't really care about it. Well, it's just temporary, right? That's what little bit I know about the FEMA units, and what happened during a couple of natural disasters that I have any experience with. Maybe you all have different experiences, maybe better experiences. Anybody out there from the Gulf Coast, or anybody out there that has ever had a FEMA unit given to them by FEMA? Am I completely wrong? Am I way off base? Are my facts not right at all? I don't know. If anybody has experience out there, please let us know. You can either drop a comment in this video, or you can email me. You can drop me a note in the mail. There's a post office box link in the description below. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what your experiences was. Am I a complete idiot? Do I know anything at all? I don't know. I'd be willing to listen to anybody that's got more information. So That's all I got for right now, and I'm gonna go up the road and fix another one, and y'all have a fantastic day.